G'day viewers, how they hanging? Peter here. So what I'm doing today, again, I've forgotten about you until now. I'm going to do some spray painting. So what I've got here is it's a engine stand for rebuilding an engine. It's actually a worm drive one, if you can see in there. It's got a 60:1 worm drive reduction here, so that the weight of the engine shouldn't flip it over. And it's a fairly substantial one. I think it can hold a 500 kilo engine. So they've got these 1, 2, 3 main bits. Got a little cap there, and I've got a couple of rubbish bins here because I'm going to paint it a colour that I call Dockyard Green. I'll go and show you. It's not a real colour. I think it's actually called Industrial Green, and I can tell you about that a little bit later. This is the paint that I'm going to use. I've had good experience with this. It's a Dulux Metal Shield epoxy enamel. It's quite shiny and it's quite tough, and I've had good experience with it. Now this one, as you can see, it's called a Vivid White base in Australia, but if you're overseas, I'll show you the formula. This is my personal mix. It's not a real colour. I call it Dockyard Green because we use it at the Naval Dockyard in Williamstown. But you've got a base white, and on 500 mils, you can see the formula there. It's B8C, is it 84 or 64? I haven't got my glasses on, and EE13. So you've got those three tinters, and it's a light green colour. I'll talk about it in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a light dust coat. This is a good product that I've found to be very good. It's an etch primer. So I'll give it a light dust coat with that. Then I'll fire up the old 3-cylinder Clisby, and I put my cheapo copy of an Iwata gun. So it's a W71. It's a Chinese copy, and it was $15, but it's worked surprisingly well. So yeah. Paint us, interrupt us, because I've forgot about you. But I've just wiped everything down with acetone, so we'll see what happens. Now, as you can see, I've got a light dust coat on, so nothing particularly interesting here. Just, you see these blow in the wind and they touch, but I don't give a fuck. It's a rubbish bin. Yeah, so just a light dust coat, and now I'll put a bit of green. I'm going to use the wrong colour green because I got more of it, and then I'll just put the real colour on as the top. Okay, so I've shot the first coat on, as you can see. Or actually, I don't know what you can see because I'm in the sunlight here. A few runs. I'm not worried about the runs because I like to try and get the shine. This rubbish bin didn't come up so well, but that was the first bit before I thinned the paint properly. So that's the first coat. All right, the little gun is now empty, and I'll shoot. That was another batch I had, because to get this colour right, I've actually, I don't know if you can see here, I've got various tins of paint here, and I've tried different colours and different formulas, and I've finally settled, because I'm only going by a colour that was in my memory in 1975, so my memory is fallible, but I reckon this colour is pretty close to right. So I'm just going to have a break, let that colour tack off a bit, and then I'll shoot a cup full of this finished colour, because the other one's just really an undercoat. So that's what I'm doing. Okay viewers, I'm just having a bit of a break now in between coats. I'll give it about 10 minutes. And then I'll shoot that top coat of the colour that I've selected. But whilst I was just sitting here scratching my head and rubbing my chin, I thought I might talk a little bit about why I'm painting this the colour that I call Dockyard Green, which I really think is called Industrial Green, but I could be wrong. And I'm looking around my workshop now. First off, you can see here I've got all these different colours of green where I've been experimenting that corresponds to those tins of paint I bought. But I look around, I've painted, see this rack here behind me? See how that's that light green colour? And then I turn around and can you see that bin that's next to the bandsaw? That is the colour that I call dockyard green. So I've sort of surrounded myself with this stuff. Now for me personally, when I started my apprenticeship and I started at the shipyard, I was 15 years old, just turning 16, and everything, all the equipment in the workshop was painted that colour. And then when I went on the ship, now the ship at the time was painted storm grey. Australian Navy has now changed it to haze grey, but at the time it was storm grey. So the hull was painted that colour. But when you went down below deck, every motor, turbine, pump, generator, so the hull was painted storm grey, but all the plant and equipment was painted this green colour. And I always found that interesting and I found it comforting. And so now I'm an old bastard and I'm painting things green because it reminds me of a time when I was wide-eyed, first walked in to the place and everything was standardised, I suppose because it was the Navy and everything was done to Navy code. Now, I did a little bit of research on this industrial green colour and I found that the reason they paint things in that colour is because it's a calming, it's psychologically, of all the colours, they did a lot of testing, I don't know if it was in the 1940s or the 1950s, and they found this colour de-stimulates the brain and people find it pleasant and calming and not threatening. And I'm led to believe that the Navy painted things this colour because when you're in a stressful situation at war, not that I think it was going to help, I'll put it this way, if you're in a ship and you're at war and under attack and they're throwing bombs at you the size and weight of a Buick, and your ship has lost all forward motion and lost steering rudder and is on fire and you're trying to put it out, and the ship is going down and you're up to your neck in water and your friends around you are screaming and dying, I don't know that the colour of the equipment around you is going to calm you down. But I also think the Navy has an obligation to do everything in its power to make a stressful situation more calm. So I kind of think that was the rationale, because it is a calming colour and it comforts me and brings me joy. So if you think I'm just a silly old fat grey-haired old bastard, you know, you are right. But it doesn't cost me a lot to paint things in this colour, and I kind of like the idea of accepting you're putting men in an incredibly stressful situation and you're doing everything in your power to mitigate that. So I suppose that's why I'm doing it. It's a respect to all the men currently out there and all the men lost. That's my thoughts about it. So that's why I generally paint my equipment dockyard green or industrial green. And maybe I'm just a silly old fart and they're probably right. But, you know, I'm going to do it. Fuck you.